Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming to our April Village Board meeting. As they say on TV, we got a lot to go over, so let's get started, and I'd like to lead off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I'd like to make a little bit of a humorous public announcement. For those who are Facebook users, if you saw the posting on Facebook that the four corners down here was going to be turned into a roundabout.
Oh, God. April Fools.
April Fools. All right, we're not making it into a roundabout. So if you hear that rumor, please tell everybody that it was a great April Fool's joke. It caught a lot of people off guard. Okay. First, we always like to have public comment. If there's anybody here that would like to make a public comment, I invite you to raise your hand. I'll acknowledge you. You come up to the microphone, identify yourself, and name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less.
How's that public hearing?
Well, can I just...
Sure, but you got to come up.
I just want to understand, can we have budget questions for public? Is this public?
There's going to be a public comment session for the public hearing for the budget.
And what about outdoor dining? You have that on the agenda?
Yeah, we do. We're going to have a discussion about outdoor dining. If you want to have a question, we'll probably entertain, because I'm sure there will be questions as well.
Thank you.
But we're going to limit it to try to keep it rolling. We have a lot to go over, so, okay?
Thank you.
Very good.
So, I'm sorry, Gary. So you're not interested in public comments about outdoor dining now?
If you would like, you could, yes. But you can wait till we get to the agenda item as well, if you don't mind. It's up to you. Okay. All right. So any other public comment? Okay. All right. With that, I'm going to make a motion to go into our budget public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We're into the public hearing and the public comment session on the budget. I have a little bit of a reading to do to introduce it. Okay, so it's a process that we go through for our budget every year. And as Chief Executive Officer for the village, as the mayor, I'm also serve as the budget officer when we go through this process. And our job is to my job is to prepare a tentative budget, then hand it over to the trustees, and then they can review, make additions or amendments or whatever, and then we kind of close out that process. The way we do that is a collaborative effort. Right? We go out to all of our heads, our departments, we collect our information, and then we schedule workshops or meetings to go over the budget. And then as a collective group of trustees, we review, revise, amend, change, and then we're all done. We adopt the tentative budget, give it to our clerk, the clerk puts it out into the public domain, and then we schedule a public hearing. So right now, today, where we're at is on the public hearing for our budget. Right, so the budget as presented for the 2022-2023 year is from June 1st to May 31st of the preceding year. Our total budget is $4,561,768. That consists of a general fund, which is $2,710,379, a water fund, which is $1,033,344, and a wastewater account that is $818,045. In this budget, as we've adopted for the tentative budget, the tax rate, not your taxes, your tax rate per thousand went from $3.15 down to $3.10 per thousand. Okay? Some major things that we focused on while we were doing the budget. Revenues have increased year to year for the village budget. And this year we're anticipating increases in sales tax, our police contracts, our building permit revenues, court activity due to the backlog of COVID, and the use of a special prosecutor. Additional funding we've also dedicated additional funding in our budget for our comprehensive plan that Trustee Slavy is working on. We also are making major changes to our building, planning, and zoning department. We're reinventing the department, basically. We're going to bring on 2 employees who are part-time. We're going to make them full-time. And we're going to focus on digitizing our records and our record retention process. This is huge. It really will make your process of working with our building, planning, and zoning department much better. When we get through this process, everything will be tied to a property. Okay? So whether it's your water bill, your wastewater bill, a permit, or whatever, everything will be tied up through a program that we call Laserfish that we started investing in a couple years ago, and that'll be a collaborative, I mean not a collaborative, that'll be the digitized records will all be online. We're going to continue our focus on environmental with costs and revenues, including composting, brining, our joint projects that are on our National Resource Inventory, our greenhouse gas emission project, and the Marist Landsman Kill project, and also all along participating with our New York Climate Smart communities. We want to become bronze. Silver, excuse me. We are bronze, yes. Thank you. We've also calculated into the budget our salaries that have been adopted by our unions with the contracts that I've presented at previous meetings. Included in this is a full-time certified wastewater treatment plant operator. This is in addition to the one we have, and the replacement of our DPW with a full-time position. We've taken into account increases in electric and fuel costs. We've all seen that locally, you know, how our costs have gone up dramatically in those things. We've made adjustments in our budget to handle that. We also have increases for the mayor and the trustees in the budget. And then future increases for those positions will be matched by the union contract as it's negotiated. We had a long conversation about how to use our ARPA funds, and you're going to hear a lot more about this in the future because we're just getting started on trying to figure a project out. And the project that we're focusing on is Center Street, which is right out here. Center Street has a water distribution problem. We have major breaks that are happening every year. We have a drainage situation, and it is in dire need of repair. We've also applied for grants that can work towards improving our access onto the sidewalks. And tonight you're going to hear that we're applying for another grant to also improve those sidewalks. But this is a collaborative effort. It's just not ARPA funds. We're not lucky enough to get enough ARPA money to do a project like this. So we're going to depend on ARPA money. We're going to depend on our highway money that comes from CHIPS and New York Paving to help us work through this project. We also have been working on for quite some time looking at our water and our water infrastructure and the costs associated with our water. Next month, you're going to see a presentation about where we think we're going in terms of our capital expenses and expenses relating to water. But this year, to make the user fee whole and our budget whole, we are proposing to increase the water rate from $6 per 1,000 gallons, that is, to $7 per 1,000 gallons. So we calculated that into the budget for our anticipated revenues. It's been since 2006, the last time we had a water increase. So as you can see, I believe we've done a great job in working with our infrastructure, managing our infrastructure improvements, and going forward, you know, we need to work on increasing our revenues. So in summary, our general fund revenues other than taxes have increased by 1.05%. Our general fund expenses have also increased by 1.09%. And within that, the police has increased by 1.02%. The fire is stable. Again, I'm saying it's a 1% for the fire, but when you're comparing $180,000 to a $500,000, I'm giving a percentage difference. But the fire is basically flat. The highway has decreased by 1%. Our building planning and zoning, which I talked about, which are making major investments into improving, is going to increase by 2.32%. And employee benefits have increased by 1%. Our water increased by 1%, but our wastewater has decreased by 1%. So I want to thank the trustees, our CFO, for their dedication in preparing the budget for this next fiscal year. Every budget has a lot of challenges, and it's a decision-making on setting the right direction and identifying the priorities for our village. This collaborative process provides our resident with a budget that, again, has no tax rate increase and is below the tax cap. So that concludes my summary. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Again, the process is to come forward to the microphone, identify yourself, give your name, your address, and please keep your questions to 3 minutes or less. Kathleen.
My name is Kathleen, I live on Silver Drive in Rhinebeck. And I just had a question about the brining, because I know that this past year, we were unable to brine, not only because of weather, but because of budget conditions and because of availability of brine, is my understanding. And last year, there was $7,000 budgeted. And I'm wondering, or I'm thinking that wasn't used because we didn't brine. But then budgets don't carry over, so that $7,000 is gone. And then
We start over.
Exactly, you start afresh. And so this year, you're budgeting $2,500. And I don't understand that because...
Sure. I mean, can I
Yes, please.
All right, so
Down?
yeah, please. So we will be rolling that $7,000 tonight. We'll be discussing that, moving that on. You know, last year was a pilot. We tested it out with a third-party contractor. This year, we were not able to get access to the brine solution. For those who don't know, using salt brine as a pre-treat before a storm is a great way to reduce the amount of salt that you're putting into the environment. So it is an environmentally friendly practice when the conditions are appropriate. So there's a lot of variables when you're dealing with weather, right? So that's one piece. But then getting access to brine has proven to be a challenge. One option would be to completely replicate the whole setup that the town of Rhinebeck has, building a salt brine maker, getting a tank and a sprayer for a truck, but we feel like that redundancy is not a good use of funds. That would be about $14,000, $15,000. So we wanted to have something in the budget for this coming winter, just so if the opportunity strikes, we can try it out again. But we felt like the $7,000 was a bit much. We're trying to keep our budget low and not raise taxes, so we were looking for every which way to lower items. And this was an item where we felt like, let's keep a little something in there, but it doesn't need to be $7,000. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, the answer is that. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. Thank you.
Just a question. Sorry, I was a bit late. So
No worries, you're on time.
Lynn Christensen, 37 South Street. My question is, do we have a budget surplus that we work off of?
So our budget process has a fund balance, right? And that fund balance is basically the difference between your expenses and your revenues. And it's like your own personal checkbook, right? At some point in time, that number is going to change based on what you expend and and your income that you have coming in. So our fund balance is always changing, but we have a fund balance policy that says we need to be between 15 and 20%, 25% of this year's budget, having that fund balance over it. So in the sense of a surplus, no, but we have a fund balance.
So what is that fund balance?
Yeah, today?
Yes. I mean, or that you're planning on carrying over into this budget that you could use for emergencies or decisions that you feel.
When was the last time we calculated the fund balance?
I can answer some of that. So the fund balance, I think, are you pulling it up?
Yeah, I'm finding it.
Okay. So As the mayor said, as per our fund balance policy, there is a threshold of staying between 15 and 25%. Currently, we are about 197,000 over that threshold, which is recommended that the board use as like a one-time expenditure, maybe to help with the project, but it's not recommended to use that to balance the budget, because in time it goes down and then you'll be looking for something to balance the budget and it's not there. So we try not to use that to balance the budget. Did that answer?
Right now, are you saying you have a current surplus?
Surplus over the
projected surplus of
threshold.
125?
Well, the current fund balance, the fund balance as of March 8th was $843,000.
Right.
Uh,
Go ahead, of which?
Of which, what do you mean, of which?
Of which the, above the 25%?
Oh, it was
of
$197,000 above the 25%.
Right.
So
So-
where is that money going to come from? I know I only have 3 minutes.
It doesn't come from anywhere, so it comes from year over year revenues minus expenditures. So it's basically, it's a savings account, for lack of a better word.
I
Yeah.
worked on it and
Yeah.
I pulled in surplus,
And-
but it's similar.
And
Yeah.
towns and villages and school districts all operate differently, right? So we have like a general account, as I mentioned. So it's synonymous to your checking account. When you have excess money in your checking account, right, because we have excess money in our account, which then we can use that fund balance, as our clerk said, to make one-time purchases if we're over and above what we said our fund balance policy is. So the surplus doesn't go over. When we reset the fiscal year, we balance out our account, close it out for the fiscal year ending in 2022, start fresh June 1st, 2022.
Okay, so next year's fund balance number is what?
It varies literally depending on the day.
It varies based on when our expenses and our revenues. So revenues are constantly coming in, expenses are constantly going out. That number in that fund balance account is constantly fluctuating.
So when we close the books, when we close the books in August, we'll know what that fund balance is. We know, as Lydia stated, approximately what it is, but we do have revenues and expenses, and then
Okay,
we
it's approximately 800, but you're.
Today.
probably,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Linda, just so you know, what we're budgeting $50,000 for next year for the comprehensive plan, and that's coming out of fund balance.
Okay.
Because it's a one-time expenditure.
I understand.
Yeah,
I get how
Yeah.
the board and
Yeah.
surpluses work. It's the
Yeah.
same idea. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Pat?
Hi, Pat Evans, 16 Somers. My first question is, you mentioned the water rate going from $6 to $7. What does that work out to for me? I have a bill every month for $54. What will my bill now be?
How much water do you use?
It's always 54.
Oh, it's the minimum.
So what's
So
the
the
new
minimum is 9, so 9 times, the minimum is
9 times 7
9
is not going to be
gallons.
63.
$63.
Okay, so it's going up 16%, same as.
Yes,
from
that's
6
right,
It's going
yeah.
up 16%.
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
just, my next question has to do with the EV. I understand you have a revenue item for the EV. There are some expense items for the EV. I want to understand how you got to those numbers.
Yeah.
I just heard you might have had something in one of your reports, I did not see that. But is this now going to be neutral?
Yeah,
Or is it
sure.
going-
I'd be happy to explain that for you,
Okay.
Pat. So for those of you who know, we had gotten grants to install our EV chargers they're in our municipal parking lots. There's 2 sets over in the main municipal parking lot and then the little guy over here. And we use the surplus of the grant money to pay for the electricity. So those EV charging stations were free for the public to use without having to put in a payment. But now, starting with this new fiscal year, we're going to start taking payments at those charging stations. And the whole goal is to cover the cost of operating those charging stations. So there's the electricity charges, and then there's also just the service charge to maintain the software associated with those charging stations. We also put in a budget item just to have some maintenance money in there if there's ever a problem, like they get hit by a car or something like that. So, God forbid.
Or a snowplow.
Or a snowplow. So the idea there is to just cover those costs. I will say that, we wanted to be mindful of still making these affordable. The whole point of installing these as a municipality is to encourage folks to switch over to electric vehicles, right? Like, we want everyone to be switching to electric vehicles because it's better for the environment, and long-term, it's better for everyone, pocketbook-wise. But there is a cost associated with operating them. So the thing that you have to know is that the cost of electricity varies, right? We will be reevaluating the rates probably on an annual basis. This is the first time out of the gate where we're trying it, but we're hoping it won't, the way it works out is it'll be 25 cents per 15-minute increment. And when we looked at the data, most people are charging their car there for an hour, 45 minutes. So it would still be affordable to park your car there and get a charge and get to where you need to go. The other thing I wanted to add is that after, I think we said 3 hours, there would be an additional parking fee, and that would be to encourage folks to vacate the parking spots so that another person could have the opportunity to charge. So you can leave it there, as long as you want, but you'll be charging an additional fee.
Thank you. So, continuing the discussion about that, I do remember a couple years ago, Gary, I think you've said a couple of times it's 6 cents a kilowatt hour, but that's changed in the calculations, correct? And that's been taken into account. My other question has to do with the fact, how do you really know what's being used? I mean, you have the data, but if I remember correctly, you were saying it was runoff from police electricity, so how do you equal that out, or how do you really?
Yeah, so the ChargePoint software provides us with an online dashboard where we can see the number of kilowatt hours that are being used, and that's how we calculated the cost per electricity. And in your calculation
then, are you basically saying it's going to stay the same? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down?
You have to kind of guess, and so we just based it on last year's usage.
Okay, but there's people who charge there all the time.
Right.
And probably won't now that they're,
right.
I mean.
So the amount of electricity used will go down.
But the revenue will go down too. So you're making,
right.
I understand you
Yeah.
have to put some, I
yeah.
get that.
But I'm really curious to see. I mean, hopefully people who come with their EVs are not, are coming because they need to get a charge and they'd be willing to pay for it. There might be some folks who have an EV charger at home, but they've been using these EV chargers because it's free, and that's going to change. And I think we would all agree that seems fair.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Come on up, Paul.
Paul Higgins, Rockefeller Lane.
Could you say it in the microphone so it can be picked up by the...
Paul Higgins, Rockefeller Lane.
Thank you.
I wonder if you could explain your justification for the salary increases for you guys.
Do you want to jump on that one?
Our increases.
Yeah, your justification. It's what,
So-
30% increase?
So Paul, it's everyone. I think it's a fair question. I work on average 15 hours a week for the village. These salary increases give me minimum wage. So $10,000 per year for 15 hours a week for me is $15 an hour. There's been a lot of conversation about how these are supposed to be volunteer positions and it's a service position. and all of the rest of it. And I would say that, you know, asking the elected leadership for this village to get paid minimum wage is actually, you're getting a huge deal. And if we want to have anyone be able to do this job who needs to perhaps pay a babysitter at night or needs to cover other costs in order to be here, needs to give up part of their other work in order to do this job, we need to make sure that we're paying at least minimum wage. So that is the justification for the wage increase.
Well put.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the budget? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public comment section for the budget and go into our board. All right, so given everything we've seen, the information that we've supplied you, the information that we have on the board, if you had any questions or whatever, we've made it all publicly available to everybody. And please, at any time, feel free to come and ask us questions. We're always open here. We're here to serve you. We're here to serve and answer your questions. So this time I'd like to make a motion to pass the budget for the year 2022-2023. Do I close the public hearing?
Do we have to vote to close?
Vote on that.
All right, do I have a vote to close the public hearing?
Second, aye.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2022-2023 Village of Rhinebeck budget. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lydia.
Yep.
Discussion by the board.
Can I go first?
Sure.
I oppose this budget. I don't want to go into this ad nauseum, but I've been arguing forcefully against a full-time DPW person. We were half-time before. I don't see the need for it, particularly in water, wastewater, where we need very little help. And I'm the liaison for both of those operations, and there's, you know, about $1.8 million in operations. I think that we need someone with, if we're using someone with general management skills for the DPW, without the technical piece of it, is only 10 hours. I started out at 10 hours, and I was trying to negotiate with you folks, and I thought 20 would be good, and that's what the other DPW was. I spoke to the leads of both water and wastewater, and we don't even know what this person is going to do for us. I want to give you an example. In the wastewater department, we need to add a licensed operator, as the mayor said. We're larding up the management because in our budget, we pay for 30% of this person with the benefits from wastewater. And again, I need hardly any help at all on that. The budget's about 60 grand more in salaries for the wastewater department. Our rate is already high. We're embarking on a very large project, which we're defining the scope of the project right now. It's going to be a multi-million-dollar project, and that's going to put additional pressures on our rate. Our professional engineering consultants told us that our rates are already high compared to the market. In fact, we're using $65,000 of our wastewater budget to pad our wastewater budget this year. So we're sinking that. Also, I'm against the 33% increase in our salaries, or whatever it is. I don't spend 15 hours a week at this position. We don't get compensated fairly. I spend more like 10, I think. We don't get compensated fairly, but that's always been the case. Last year we talked about scheduling workshops to discuss this, and we didn't do that. And I think as far as compensation for the trustees and the mayor, that's really a village-wide decision to make. It isn't up to us in the last 2 or 3 weeks of our budget deliberations to make that decision. I would like to say one thing, and you guys have heard this all before. What I owe this community I moved to Rhinebeck. My kids went to what amounts to a college preparatory public school. It's that quality. In the vocational realm, it is also a professionally developing, place for others. It was a public school. My children's education has been buoyed by my neighbors, by the state of New York, and I can't even begin to tell you what I owe back to this community. I lived in some neighborhoods that just frankly weren't safe. I'm safe here, my family's safe here, they have been for 18 years. This is just part of giving back to your community. There are plenty of people in our community that have a little spare time on their hands to devote to public service. So those are the big reasons why I'm going to vote no on the budget.
Thank you, Brant.
I know there were a lot of close calls for me, but I just can't do it.
Okay. Any other comment?
I think all of us, I'm going to speak to the salary issue. All of us are here because we want to give back to our community.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take this. I think I know all of us are here because we all want to serve our community. That's all the reason why we're here, and every single one of us wants to do that. We want to do that deeply and with as much energy as we can possibly summon. I think one of the concerns that I've had is that basically these jobs or these positions have been open to the people who have the time and the money to be able to do the job. And if you're going to diversify the board, if you're going to make this the ability to give back to your community larger, I think that we need to compensate people more so that more people, rather than people who simply have the luxury of doing this job, are able to pick up the job. So there is a tension. This is not really about loving your community versus not loving your community. We all love our community deeply. The question is seeing if we can bring more people to this table. And I would hope that, after I would leave the board, we'll see increasing diversity and such on the board. So that's my reason why I think that this is an appropriate increase.
Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'd like to make roll call on the board for approval of the budget. We've already heard from Brant, but also I'll start with you, Brant.
Nay.
Yes, thank you.
Aye.
Vanessa? Lydia?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Mayor, aye. So the budget passed for the year 2022, 2023. Again, I want to thank the trustees. It was a lot of late nights, a lot of work, a lot of emotion, and a lot of decision-making went into this, and I want to extend special thanks to our CFO, Karen McLaughlin, who was here throughout the whole time, dedicating, keeping the spreadsheets, making sure it was tabulated right, making sure at the end of the day the numbers balanced out, and give us advice and counsel. So again, I thank everybody.
Could
Okay.
I just add one thing? Could you also do the water and sewer budget?
Do you want to do them separately?
Do that separately, as well as if the board is prepared to authorize the rate increase effective June 1st, then that would start the next fiscal year.
Okay, if you want to do that tonight, I'm happy to do that tonight as well.
Right.
All right,
Starting
so
June 1st.
as I mentioned, there's three basically accounts. We have the general fund account, which is what you see your taxes on. We have the water and wastewater, which are all user-based, right? We just basically talked about the general fund and the general fund balance, which is the 315 going to 310 tax rate. Now let's talk about the water. The water, we had $1,033,344 as our budget. It balances out with our user fees. I'd like to make a motion to pass the water budget as proposed.
Second.
Thanks, Vanessa.
That's all right.
Any discussion on the budget? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. While we're on water, I had mentioned the water increase.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were voting on a water increase.
No, that's
I meant nay
now.
on that one because of what I said earlier.
Oh,
What?
he's voting no.
I wanted to vote for the dollar increase.
Brandt's voting for the dollar increase, but not for the budget.
It's out.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Okay,
had it backwards.
that's all right, no problem. Now let's talk about the rate increase that I mentioned. Since 2006, our water rate has not changed, from $6 a thousand. It's been that. We get our water from the Hudson River. I think everybody by now knows that we depend very solely on the Hudson River as our supply, as do 100,000 people in the local area depend on the Hudson River to do that. Getting water does have an expense with it. There's issues that happen as related to turbidity, contamination. You know, the river is a living, breathing body of water that's constantly changing. We have a great water department. We have a great crew. We have a great operator down there to run the plant. But as you saw, we invested a lot into the water distribution, right, to improve that. I talked about making improvements to the Center Street project, and we're working, currently we have a grant in place at the state for $6 million into the state REFC grant. I don't remember, but $6 million that hopefully if we get, we're going to make some dramatic improvements to improve our standard of water quality and bring it back up and bring it up so we can meet the standards for the future because they're always changing as well. So with that, I'm proposing tonight that we, starting June 1st, we increase our water rate from $6 a thousand to $7 a thousand.
Second.
Thank you, Brant. Discussion. Vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And you're going to be hearing more about this hopefully next month. We have a member of Ty and Bond who did a water rate analysis for us, and we're going to have him come in and present the future of where we think we need to go with water. So it's an ongoing discussion. Wastewater. Wastewater, we have I don't know, quote it off the top of my head, but I think we have a wastewater budget of $818,045. I'd like to make a motion to approve the wastewater budget for the year 2022-2023.
Do you want to do it?
So I have a second?
It's yours. Do you want to do it?
Well, second.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Brant. All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
I actually have a question. So Brant, you just raised a point that we have to hire a second full-time wastewater operator. But the current wastewater operator that we have has explained that, yes, we need 2 wastewater operators to run our plant, but they don't need to be full-time. So my question to you is why we're hiring a second full-time person when we don't need someone who's full-time?
Again, Brian thinks that we need 2 full-time operators. It was my opinion maybe that we needed 1.5, but he really feels like he needs 2. So,
But yet he's the one that came forward and
We pretty much
said.
talked about, I mean, we budget, this is
I
part
know,
of our
I'm
budget
sorry,
discussion.
I wasn't in the wastewater budget meeting, I apologize for that, but,
Well,
you raised it, so.
We did, so.
So when we go forward to approving the position, I think we should have this discussion, okay?
All right,
Because
great.
that'll come forward when we get into the year to do
Yeah,
that.
there's some delicate stuff to talk about with that.
Okay, great.
There's a lot of delicate stuff here.
Well, yeah.
Not to avoid the subject, but we need to discuss it. And we'll discuss it at the hiring.
But I brought this up seriatim over the past
No.
year, and
Yeah,
you're
no, I
bringing it
know.
up now, which
Yeah.
is interesting, but.
Well, you just
That's
raised
what
it
you're-
15 minutes ago, so,
All right, who seconded it?
Brant.
Brant. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you. Okay. Did that cover everything for you, Karen?
Good, thank you.
Okay. Okay. We're going to move on. Some exciting stuff. And it's unfortunate that Colton Johnson could not be here this evening. We had scheduled Colton Johnson to come in and be recognized for 30 years of service to the village of Rhinebeck. I'd like to read a write-up that I have for Colton. I won it on Panda and I won it public. He felt he did, one of the reasons was he's caring for his wife tonight, but he's very humble, and I appreciate that. So with that, Colton Johnson has been the chair of our Zoning Board of Appeals, and he has a long history with the village, dating back to 1967 when he lived on Livingston Street. It soon became apparent that his knowledge and his attention to detail would be useful, and like most of us, he found himself drafted into the Zoning Board of Appeals. And that happened in the early 90s. And then following his footsteps of his predecessor, he continued to conduct business in a judicial manner with attention that each and every hearing was accurately and thoroughly recorded. And then in 2014, he then was asked to become chair. So continuing in his desire that each hearing be given due diligence, he followed a very precise procedure that we will be working to pass on to the next Zoning Board of Appeals chair. Personally, I've known Colton, since I've been in the village. And whenever our paths have crossed, I've just found him enjoyable to be with, and I'm always in awe of his passion and his commitment to serving the village. I want to wish Colton all the best, and I want him to look forward to spending time at his childhood home in Michigan, where he goes back to every year and has not been able to go back to for 3 years due to COVID, and he so desperately wants to spend more time there this coming year. So for 30 years has now come and gone so quick as Colton is our chair. It's been great to know him and great to know that he's been a valuable part of the fabric of the village of Rhinebeck. I wish him Godspeed, and I hope that our paths continue to cross. I also want to read some quotes from some zoning board members. This is from Tim Decker. Colton was a trendsetter in restoring his house on Livingston Street when others were tearing old houses down. He has been an active member of the Rhinebeck community for many years, and his devotion to preserving the community with his work on the zoning board and the zoning commission has resulted in long-lasting benefits for us all. Thank you, Colton, for all that you have done. I also like to read one from Judy Merritt, Zoning Board of Appeals member. It's hard for me to imagine the Zoning Board of Appeals without Colton Johnson being part of it. He was one of the main reasons I sought out a position on the ZBA in the first place. At that time, I was sorely missing the intellectual challenge of working in Manhattan and was looking for something stimulating to do now that I was living in the village. I asked around and heard quite a few things about Colton. The one bit of gossip that piqued my interest was his alleged intelligence. It did not take long for me to discover the truth of that bit of gossip. He's a very smart man indeed, and one of the few who truly understand the meaning of a precedent. As Dostoevsky said, it takes something more than intelligence to act intelligently. That something more, where Colton is concerned, is character. As chairman, he led the ZBA with patience, humility, fortitude, fairness, and a sense of vision. Above all, he was always a good listener. These traits are what made him such a good leader and a supportive colleague. The village of Rhinebeck has benefited greatly from Colton's presence on the ZBA and his efforts to interpret, to perfect, and to ensure the validity of the zoning throughout the village. I will greatly miss working with him. So with that, I want to recognize Colton, and I will do this also in person with him, with this unique plaque that I will give to him. This is unique. Excuse me, I hate to see good people leave, but I'm happy for them when they go on. So this is to Colton Johnson, in recognition as chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals, your attention to formality, accuracy, and dedicated service to the village of Rhinebeck for the last 30 years. And it's the only one that we've ever produced with the seal of Rhinebeck on it. So this will be passed on to Colton. I'd like to wish you all, give a round of applause for Colton. Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have Alan Scher, Town Board councilperson here, that would like to talk to us about the village, the town and the village in terms of our space requirements.
I'm Alan Scher, I'm from next door. Town board. One of the things that's going on at the town hall is that we're reconfiguring the basement of town hall, which holds the assessment department, the zoning enforcement officer, the building inspector, building department that issued permits, the planning board support, and so on. That space has several problems. One, it's not handicap accessible, and number two is there are air quality problems. So the town has gotten money from ARPA to the tune of $536,000 to reconfigure town hall. And basically what we're planning to do is move those functions out of the basement. Also, there are issues with the courtrooms that we have. The security problems, not enough space for the judges' offices and for the clerk's offices. There are similar problems here, I'm told. I wouldn't presume to tell you you have problems, but the idea that I'm coming here to propose is that that someone from your board and I go do the work to figure out how to optimize the space that we have in both buildings, particularly looking at the courtrooms. Because you have a courtroom, we have a courtroom, we have clerks in offices, you have clerks in offices, you have judges' chambers, we have judges' chambers, we have security problems, you have security problems, and so on. So the idea is to solve those maybe once instead of twice. And so what I'm proposing is to basically do two things. Working with somebody from the village, go interview all the users in the two buildings to find out where the problems are in terms of space, what extra space we need, what space we have that we don't need. In particular, deal with things like security, internet access, which is an issue for the courts, by the way. And then figure out what we need, and then go figure out how to provide those needs, either in the two buildings or finding a third place to do things. There are some other spaces in the village and town that could be used to solve some of our space problems. The idea would be we do it in two phases: requirements and then recommended solutions. We keep the two boards in the loop all the way, maybe monthly reports or weekly reports, however you want to do it. And so basically what I'm asking is for the village board to agree to provide somebody for me to work with.
Sounds great.
Okay, well, what do you want to do?
Draw straws? No, I'm going to volunteer myself. I am the liaison for the village building itself. So as liaison to the village building, I would like to volunteer myself, if the board approves, to work with Councilperson Alan Scher to do this survey of our needs and then come back and report.
Yeah, I'm willing to, I think we should come back at least to each of your meetings and say what we've done and give a short summary of what we found, to the point where we make recommendations.
All right. All right, so I'm making a motion to ask the board for approval.
Second.
Second by Lydia. Discussion?
It doesn't hurt to survey, I just, we're not pledging.
This is the survey piece.
Yeah, I mean, neither one of us can do anything unilaterally anyway.
I just want to make sure we're not.
But we are busting at the seams as well. We have a fire department that is growing, and I'm thankful that we have a fire department that is growing, and the needs that to satisfy, as well as additional space requirements. So I'm happy to participate in the survey.
I would just ask that, especially during your interviews, and where you're doing your fact-finding portion of it, to prepare something that the public can get access to, because, you know, I think people really want to know what's going on and would want transparency there.
No, I intend this to be, at least from my point of view, completely transparent. I don't want to do anything behind closed doors.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There you go.
Thanks, Alan.
Good luck. Okay. I think some of you here to also hear about an event that's been going on for 2020, 2021 called outdoor dining, right? I understand there was a petition that was circulated around the community that got quite a few signatures, and I believe John Traver is here to either talk about, present, or mention. But John, I'm going to ask you to come to the podium and tell us what you know.
Well, thank you all. I'm John Traver. I live in the town at 77 Pells Road, and I'm here representing Samuel's Sweet Shop and many of our lovely restaurants and retail shops. We are all extremely grateful for the help that the village and other governments provided for the last 2 years to allow us to have outdoor dining and outdoor retail. That in no doubt saved many of our small businesses, and I think that we are extremely lucky in Rhinebeck to have this really diverse collection of independently owned shops and restaurants. It's hard to find. You don't have to travel far. You can just go to a town next door to see empty storefronts and a lack of diversity and interesting and fun things to do. So here I am. A lot of our county and state mandates have ended. Outdoor dining is now seemed in question. So the restaurants got together and circulated a petition, and I'm bringing here signatures from Samuel's, Pete's Famous, Village Pizza, and Le Petit Bistro to add to the online signatures, and this brings our total over 2,500. And again, I'm grateful for everything that happened over the last 2 years, and we are hoping that we can all come together to find a way to make outdoor dining and outdoor retail continue on some level, because there still is some hesitancy or volatility in indoor protocols today, and I hope that we can support our businesses as much as possible. So, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Is it possible to read the statement in the petitions for the 2,500 signatures?
Sure, I can read that.
I guess, I'm not familiar with it. Sorry.
You can hand it to me and I'll hand it down.
We are a group of restaurants in the village of Rhinebeck who would like to see outside seating on the sidewalks continue as in the past 2 years, not in the street with barriers. At the present time, it is not allowed going forward. Many of you have told us if we ever need your support on this topic to let you know. Now is the time we could use your support. Of course, we're all in this together, and we'd also like our diners and neighboring village shop owners to enjoy similar outdoor retail displays as we've seen over the past 2 years. We will present the petition early April to the village board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eleanor.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Eleanor Pupko, Village Green, not opposed to outdoor dining at all, but I do have some concerns about who owns that space then. And the reason I'm asking is because I was part of a protest on the corner, which has been a great tradition in Rhinebeck, that you could go and protest on the corner for whatever it is, you know. And we were asked to move because we were bothering the diners. So whose space does that become, and is that going to, you know, impinge on our freedom of speech? Thank you.
So the space is public space. The sidewalks are owned by the merchants in terms of the village, right? One of the things that our police force will do is make sure you're not impeding traffic on the sidewalk. So I don't know the circumstances, Eleanor, in which you're talking about, but I've seen lots of petitions there, and I've seen lots of them continue for a long time. So I think it depends on the circumstances, and I don't know the details about the exact one you're talking about.
We're very careful about not, we're very cognizant about keeping the space, but they were saying that we were making noise and it was bothering the diners.
Well, I think if you're on one corner protesting something and people are sitting outdoors in another corner, then that restaurant doesn't have any right to tell you what to do.
Right.
That's my opinion on that. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, and so any future regulations or anything that we might do in the future, we'll make sure to think about that as part of it. Thank you, Eleanor.
Yeah. So, one second. So this is, I'm going to call this a transitional year, because what we have asked the Comprehensive Plan Committee to do, to look into this in terms of a long term, right? And I don't know what that means. I'm waiting to hear what the Comp Plan Committee comes back with in the future and says, what does it look like for the village of Rhinebeck? Yes, no, indifferent, I don't know. But that's on their agenda. I believe you have a committee already focused on doing that. So we'll wait for that. But in the interim, there's a transition here from what we had to go forward. I'm not proposing that we do what we did before, right? And put barriers out in the street, as John mentioned, and that we've all said. The rules and regulations during the pandemic have all gone away. For instance, the State Liquor License Authority, it was carte blanche approval, right? All we had to do, our village clerk filled out the application, made sure they was aware, that was it. Department of Health didn't care, all right? We were allowed to continue operating under it as long as there was a state executive order and a county executive order that allowed us to operate within those confines. We in the village changed some of our regulations to get rid of signage and allow amends, just push to the side some of our laws that said what you could and could not do on the village sidewalks. So we made a lot of amendments, but they're not there. And we can't do those changes without having the emergency executive orders that we had, right? But what we can do is think about something in a more scaled down, limited process. So the chamber has come forward to us and said they would like to be kind of a sponsor for going forward. And a sponsor, if you remember in the past, we've had sidewalk sale events. And the thought process was, how can we merge sidewalk sale events and retail dining, and maybe for the summer have a limited experience outdoor dining retail event that maybe lasts from Memorial Day to Columbus Day that only uses sidewalks. This is what is being proposed. We use the sidewalk and it maintains a 5-foot ADA approved access way, and so there would be no tables on the curbside, maybe tables on the building side, but tables would be limited only to the frontage of that building where they have it. It wouldn't be allowed to extend into other people's property. And the retail would be able to do the same. Right now, we allow retail if you have 15 square, you can have 15 square feet or a 3-foot table out in front of your establishment, but a retail establishment could do the same thing. So the chamber is now talking about how can we do this? I said, make an event. Let's see if we can do that as an event coming forward. So they have reached out to the chamber. The chamber has reached out to our businesses and said, would they be interested? And I think the response, John, you can confirm, was they voted. I got a phone call today from the chamber, and the chamber board voted unanimously to want to do this. And they are going to charge their members a fee for them to do the paperwork and process all of that work associated with doing it. And then they want to come forward to the board and present to us an event application, right? So there's a lot of details to be worked out, but where we are today is, I think we heard from the petitioners, we heard from the chamber, we've heard from many businesses and people who have reached out to us. We've heard from those who are on public space and those who are not on public space, right? So there are businesses that reside in not public-private space. There is an avenue for them, and we've proposed that to them, is that they can come to the planning board and ask for approval to put the tent up, extend their dining, or do whatever in that private space, but they have to go through a site plan review process to be able to do that if they're in private space.
Basically what they've always been allowed to do.
Right. So this only applied to those businesses who are in the public right away. So that's what we know so far. I'm willing to take questions. Pat's halfway up, walking already. Come on up, Pat.
Right away. John, if you could tell me, out of the 2,500, how many are village or town residents of Rhinebeck?
I unfortunately can't tell you that, but close to 400 came from our local shops and restaurants.
But the online application was open to the world.
And that, true.
Right? So I understand that there's an interest in it, but the village residents who it affects the most and who use those sidewalks the most, you're not able to tell me how many of those people signed.
Right now, no.
Okay.
But we can find that out.
Thank you. My other question in regards to this, it sounds like it's going to happen, okay? But my big issue is enforcement. Last year, I think you said you weren't going to hire or weren't going to allow an enforcement officer to walk around on Friday or Saturday nights when it's the most. Am I correct in that?
Oh, enforcement of?
Of last year's outdoor dining. I think that there were some issues about, what the regulations were, and you said, well, we don't have it in the budget to have the it's going to be the public that has to.
Oh, we weren't going to hire someone to walk a beat, but the zoning enforcement officer was empowered and encouraged to.
But did, or she, I don't know, did they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
Were there any
restaurants.
violations issued?
There were a couple of violations issued. There were a couple letters sent. There were a couple phone calls made. Oh, yeah.
I got to tell you, from my walking around, the whatever you want to call it, 5 feet ADA was not being in compliance, number one.
Okay.
Number two, people were standing outside of restaurants waiting to get in. They were supposed to have a separate area to go to. That did not happen last year.
Okay.
And I guess I just feel like if you're going to do this, you talk about them having to pay the chamber a fee, maybe the village should get a fee so there could be somebody to enforce. I think the other thing from last year that I didn't quite agree with was there was no consequence. You worded it so that they get a violation, they get another violation, they get another violation, they get another violation. There was nothing to say on your third violation, you lose your right to have that space.
Okay. This is really helpful comments because we're obviously not, well, depending on who you talk to, we're not in an emergency anymore. But at the very least, in 2020, restaurants weren't allowed to serve indoors. And so we're definitely not there anymore, right? So this is actually very helpful because, there's a question of both need for safety and health and the pandemic and all the rest of it, but then there's also a question of desire of just people enjoying sitting outside and having dinner, right? And and so balancing, if we're now sort of at the want instead of the need stage of outdoor dining, this is all really good stuff to think through as we're coming up with a plan. And we may not find a resolution that works. And so in that case, we don't find a resolution that works, right?
Well, I guess I'll leave it at, it sounds to me like it's going to happen.
No.
No, they haven't come to us with a plan.
We don't even have an application.
We haven't, yeah.
Well,
I am definitely not.
okay, but
Yeah.
I guess I would
Convinced
just
at
be, my point is, please take into consideration the village residents
Yeah.
who do enjoy the village,
Yeah.
who walk the village streets,
No, yeah.
enjoy the ambience.
Yeah.
We might not sit down at the restaurant, we
Yeah.
like to go by.
Yeah.
It was not easy to get by certain places.
No, and I agree with you, especially on Friday or Saturday night with the waiting and all of the rest of it.
So Pat, I'd like to also say, the comments that we had, or they received, are the positive ones.
Yeah.
Right? We have not heard from you or from others. And I believe that's an important aspect of all of this, is that we also get to hear from others.
Everyone.
That have an opinion based on this. So I think that's part of the process.
Comment. It's just that I feel like there should be enforcement and consequence if we're going to do that.
It's constructive. I call them constructive comments. I'm not saying they're negative. I just say we want to hear both sides.
I'm confused. We've passed a resolution that this would go, I'm sorry, Pat, but we passed a resolution that this was going to go to the planning board subcommittee to consider. And I assumed they were going to survey all the residents and stuff. But now you're talking about kind of shoehorning this with an events permission before that's complete?
So the comprehensive plan work is underway, and that's for like long-term changes to whatever, you know?
Well, we need to wait for them to finish. As far from where I'm standing, these people have all gone through zoning a long time ago. They did special permit, site plan review, whatever, and I don't feel like I have the authority to overrule or to even interfere with the zoning process until the master plan suggests that we're going to do something different than what our laws suggest.
Right. So the question, Brant, is before the comprehensive plan committee comes out with a proposal on that, is there anything that we can do this summer?
Why?
And so,
why would we put our thumbs on the scales? Let's let the process happen.
Well,
I mean, I
hear you on that, but
it's
like,
not up to me to decide that I'm going to give up the sidewalk.
Well, but you know, we can vote on that.
That's a land use issue that should be that's handled by our code that exists right now, and it doesn't follow our code.
So why don't we just entertain it and listen to what they come forward with? I don't know.
Because you mean the committee?
No, the chamber who wants to bring an event.
Well, the chamber's always going to want to have sidewalk dining. That's a special interest.
Let's see what they can. Of
course.
And we can vote on it.
They're allowed to come to us with an idea, and we're allowed to say no.
I don't feel like I have the authority to vote on that without public hearings and findings. And why would I overrule the planning board? This is what they're the specialists. The comprehensive plan folks are the ones that are going to be knowledgeable enough to do that.
So the question I have for you,
not us,
right? And so this is what I've been trying to think through, right? Because we had 2 years of like tables all over the place, right? In the street, Jersey barriers, blah blah blah. It was successful in that it kept the businesses open. It attracted a lot of tourists. I quite enjoyed eating out on Market Street's patio, but like, you know, that's my personal opinion. So the question is, now that we're clearly not in any shape or form in the future of Rhinebeck going to have Jersey barriers in the middle of the street, we're not even sure if the State Liquor Authority would allow it in current moments. So the question is now, all right, so we had one version of an experiment for the last 2 years. What would it look like if there were, say, two tops in front of Cinnamon? We don't know what that looks like. We don't know what that impact is.
It's already been considered in our zoning code. We had restrictions.
We've never tried it, though.
On having things
what I'm saying is that we've just had an experiment with like one end of the pendulum swinging one way on like tables everywhere, and we could, if we so chose, we can also choose not to, have an experiment on slightly the other end of the spectrum with like a couple of two tops in front of Cinnamon or Le Petit Bistro or whatever. And if we choose not to like run that experiment this summer, then we choose not to run that experiment this summer. But I think in some ways, giving the comprehensive plan committee something that's not theoretical to bounce against is helpful for their decision making. You know, they're like thinking about stanchions, and so many people have come up with all these ideas, and you widen the sidewalks.
But the zoning code already considers the stuff on sidewalks. It's in there. It's a violation to have stuff on the sidewalks, except during the sidewalk sales. This is expressed in our codes.
Brent, can I finish my thought? And so the question is, if the comprehensive plan committee has seen sort of one version of how this could work, like maybe there's an opportunity to have them see how another version of it could work. If we as this board choose not to help them run that sort of physical experiment, then we can choose not to have them help run that physical experiment. But I think it's an interesting idea to at least allow the chamber to bring it forward. If we say no, that's fine. But if we don't even allow them to bring it forward, I think we're
I
not
didn't say
doing a
we
good
should.
job of listening to our constituency.
I didn't say that we wouldn't bring it, it's a
Okay,
special
well-
interest group.
And that's all we
bringing
said,
something
though. We
forward.
said,
Okay, that's all we're saying.
let the chamber bring forward.
It does,
and we
I
can
mean, I
do it.
agree with Pat, it sounds like you guys have sort of made up your mind.
No, we haven't.
Well,
I
I know
don't-
you probably.
I mean, I think we would all enjoy being able to sit at a table outdoors, and so the question is how we go about doing that.
There's a lot of questions that needed to be
There's
answered.
so many questions to answer.
Right, that aren't answered. We don't have the right over the SLA.
We
That
don't
would be
have
up
right over the
to.
Dutchess County Board of Health. We don't have
Right.
right over the ADA.
Yeah, we're not
have-
going to make those decisions. We can't make those
I can't
decisions.
make, I mean, I don't want to make that through an events permit or whatever if it's overruling our zoning code. You know, that sits, that, we just need to enforce our codes. That's basically my skinny version of what I'm getting at. I don't want to put a thumb on the scales. We agreed that this planning committee would come up with something, probably survey the public and come up with some ideas. I don't want to create something that's not, that's expressly prohibited in our code that we're overruling and put the thumb on this.
So you're putting the cart before the horse, because we haven't heard from the chamber yet. We need the chamber to come in and tell us what they want to do. Let's hear the application,
Okay.
let's hear it out.
Let's hear it out.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we need to, we owe that to them because they've expressed an interest to want to do that. And that's it.
And I also think that, I would be curious, and who knows why the zoning code is written the way it was back then, but after having this experience for the last 2 years, where it was generally enjoyable to have more street furniture, and sometimes too much, and that needs to be corrected, after people have seen that a lot of people seem to have enjoyed it, then we are getting some requests like, hey, how can we do this again? So in a way I'm saying the zoning code, maybe we need to be reflective of what people's desires are. Maybe when we wrote this code, people didn't want that. Now it seems like people do. So I wouldn't lock us into the past because I think conditions have changed.
That's not what I said. What I said is let's wait for this planning committee.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a way, if the comprehensive plan committee is going to be studying this, we'll wait and see what the chamber proposes, but if it does go forward, maybe there's a way to very intentionally link this experiment, if it were to be approved, with gaining feedback from people who live here.
Yeah.
In a way that,
Makes a lot of sense.
really does gain a lot of perspectives in real life, if it is to happen. Maybe every restaurant who has this has to have a way to get feedback from people who are dining there or people who are walking through that's very visible and easy access. So if it were to be an experiment, let's really integrate it into the planning, the comp plan
But
committee.
they should ask us for that. The committee should be asking us for the experiment.
Right.
Okay. Any other discussion, any other comment? We have a lot to cover. All right, I'm going to move on. 5G wireless facilities. We discussed this, we had a public hearing, we had a workshop, we had a public hearing. Now we're ready to go to resolution on what small wireless facilities in the village of Rhinebeck look like. I'm going to turn it over to Lydia. I believe you have the resolution.
I do.
To carry forward.
So we have made a couple of very small, non-substantive changes to the public law that we've been talking about. And our engineers have helped us think through the environmental assessment. So what I have in front of us now is a resolution to both declare the environmental impact to be negligible and to pass the law. So I can read it.
You know what's the seeker is a good summary of the law, actually, so people will be refreshed.
Sure. Do you want to read that part, Brad?
Yeah, I'll read that part. And
Yeah.
then you can. The action may be visible from a New York State scenic area of statewide significance as the Estates District overlaps with portions of the village. However, the action will not result in any, action is the zoning code, in any significant adverse impacts on aesthetic resources. The purpose of the village's drafted small wireless facilities regulations is to mitigate the impact of irresponsible or unregulated siting and design of the small wireless facilities by creating requirements for them that suit the character of the village. To mitigate the impact on aesthetic resources, the site plan application, see section D7A, will require identification of the location of all small wireless facilities, proposed colors, spec sheets, proposed landscaping and screening elements, and line of sight visual impact study. These required items will assist the village's planning board in evaluating how the facilities will aesthetically look after installation in the village. Locations for the small wireless facilities, see section H, are preferred to be mounted on existing poles with cellular towers, roofs, or utility poles. If a new pole is proposed, it will be within an existing right-of-way. Additional mitigation strategies are laid out in section J13, stating sizing and height restrictions, linear feet distance minimums, pruning or removal of street tree restrictions, and new proposed pole requirements for the facilities. The zoning code also has a section J5, which is specific to identifying other aesthetic requirements for small wireless facilities that were not previously mentioned in other sections of the code. This section details the village's allowance for alignment with existing streetlights and poles and a lot's primary structure, fencing, landscaping, and signage of small wireless facilities. The impact on the historical and archaeological resources. Although the village of Rhinebeck contains its downtown core, a historic district listed on the National Register of Historic Places, as well as the Hudson River Historic District, the action will not result in any significant adverse impacts on these or other historical resources. Due to the village's historic designation, the village wants to ensure the historical character is retained when proposals come to the planning board for small wireless facilities. By implementing the multiple aesthetic restrictions described above, the law will help the village retain its historic character even as more small wireless facilities get installed. The action will result in no impact to archaeological resources as it pertains to small wireless facilities. The vast majority of the facilities will be mounted on existing structures. It will not require earth disturbance. If a new pole gets proposed for the facilities to be mounted to this, the work will be conducted in a right-of-way in existing disturbed surface. Does that help? Let's make it harder.
Does that help? No, it was a nice.
Everybody get that? If you got it, raise your hand. I'd just like to comment. I think the board has done a great job on trying to set us up as a standard for how 5G can look and feel within the village. It works to protect our historic preservation. It works to protect the sight lines. It works to protect any, obstructions in terms of when and if this ever comes. And I want to be very clear. There's nobody knocking on our door today, right? And you can say, well, why do we want to pass this if we have nobody knocking on our door? But in reality is they will. And we would like them to come. We would like to see the technology move forward, and be available with here in the village of Rhinebeck. So having this law now opens a way for them to understand what it takes, and they don't have to come here and we don't have to go into a panic mode of how do we stop them or what do we do. So I'm happy the fact that we're ahead of the game in terms of where 5G will be and how it could look in the village of Rhinebeck.
So I will read a summary of the resolution. So whereas the continued development of new technologies for cellular communications, including 5th generation or 5G, is likely to require facilities substantially different in size, scale, and coverage than prior cellular technologies, and in particular is likely to result in many more facilities throughout the village, with each facility being of a lower height and reduced coverage. Whereas the village board desires to provide a uniform and comprehensive set of standards. Whereas the board has been presented with and has introduced a draft local law number 1 of 2022, amending chapter 120 of the zoning code. Whereas the intent of local law number 1 is to prevent interference with the use of streets, sidewalks, alleys, parkways, and other public ways and places, prevent the creation of visual and physical obstructions and other conditions that are hazardous to vehicular and pedestrian traffic, prevent interference with existing facilities and operations of facilities presently lawfully located in rights of way or public property, ensure diligent efforts are made to preserve the unique character of the village, its aesthetic and architectural qualities, its historic structures, sites, and cultural features. Protect against environmental damage, including damages to trees, and facilitate deployment of small wireless facilities to provide the benefits of reliable access to wireless telecommunications technology, broadband, and 911 services. In March, the board heard the public's comments. Whereas the board and its consultants have prepared a full environmental assessment form to identify and evaluate the potential of local law number 1 to cause significant adverse environmental impacts. Whereas the Dutchess County Planning Board has reviewed the draft of local law number 1. Whereas in a comment letter, the Dutchess County Planning Board commended the village for proactively addressing this emerging land use, did not recommend modification or disapproval to the draft local law, but only suggested certain edits to improve clarity and conciseness. Whereas the village board has incorporated several of the edits suggested by DC Planning. Whereas the village board, after taking a good hard look at all of the information available to it, has not found any significant adverse impact from local law number 1 of 2022, but instead finds that the local law will protect the village's scenic and historic resources by enacting requirements for small wireless facilities. And whereas the village board further finds that by standardizing the siting of such facilities, local law number 1 of 2022 will augment wireless communications resources to village residents and visitors. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and its implementing regulations, after review of the EAF and all other information provided to the village board, including comments by the public, other agencies, and its own investigation, the board hereby adopts a negative declaration for local law number 1 of 2022 and determines that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required for the adoption of such law. And be it further resolved that the village board hereby adopts local law number 1 of 2022 entitled Village of Rhinebeck Small Wireless Facility Law. Do I have it? So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I just want to say thanks to Brant and Lydia for doing a great job.
Thank you.
This is a real service to keeping our historic character. Thank you.
And it was complicated and well done.
I'd like to thank Judy Merritt too, and Tim Decker, and Lydia, and David Miller, and I worked on that. And
got a lot of help from the planning and zoning board.
Yeah.
It's really helpful.
And our new land use attorneys.
Yeah, and our new,
That's
great resolution.
you know, we made an investment and it's paying off.
Yep, they're doing a good job. At 1 in the morning, no less.
All right. Okay, so now it comes time to vote. All right, I'm just going to do it by show of hands. I think we're ready. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Local law number 1, 2022, so carried.
Well done.
Thank you all. Okay, next on the agenda is every year the county releases grant opportunities, and they released a grant several months ago, which we applied for in terms of improving the handicap curb stops on 6 intersections out here in the village of Rhinebeck. They now have the 2022 MIG grant proposals, which are the Municipal Innovation Grant, which we can also apply for to do. So we have this year's the grant process has a special focus too in terms of bringing in EMS and fire services into the picture. So there's a focus to be able to provide more resources and funding to them. But with that, we have 3 proposals that we would like to submit to the county for consideration for grants. And one, I'm going to just list them in the order and we'll talk about them. And we have Chief Kyle Amy to talk about the fire, and I saw Sergeant Dunn, I think, in the back there to talk about the police ones as well. I'm going to start off with the village, what's called Village Hall accessibility sidewalk improvement. And basically, it's to replace the sidewalks on Center Street, on East Market Street in the confines of the village building, including the apron into the firehouse. All right? And so it's a sidewalk replacement plan. Also includes handicap access to Village Hall. If you've noticed, our ramp that we have up there. The railing is somewhat dislocated, and the ramp seems to be collapsing and falling and needs repair, and also to provide handicap access to the firehouse on that side with the ramp and railings. So that proposal for those improvements comes to $85,771.26, all right? Which, let's just say, let's call it $86,000 for round numbers to make that. I would like to make a motion to submit this grant to the county for the 2022 MIG grant proposals for $86,000 with a 10% contribution from our sidewalk capital fund.
Second.
Second.
Lydia Beecher. Thank you, Lydia. Discussion.
So this dovetails into our Center Street project, if possible.
Correct. It would actually reduce
the cost of
the
that.
cost if we can get these sidewalks covered by the grant.
When do we find out if we get the grant?
Probably August,
Okay.
which will be before we have that project. Plenty of time. Yeah.
Did you want to separate them all? Because you have to
Yeah.
submit it as one application.
No, we're going to submit them as 3 separate applications. We do not have to submit them as one. They're going to go in as 3 separate applications to the county, which is allowable. Yep. So that question was, do we want to combine them all together? And the answer is no. Having served on the committee, we can do this separately, and it gives us more. They're all treated independently. That way, if one's rejected, they're not all rejected, all right? There was a question, Trustee Slavy had a question. This is using concrete as our sidewalk base. The suggestion was, could we use bluestone? Yeah, we could. The cap on the grant.
Speaking on behalf of the Historic District.
The cap, yeah, and it's a great suggestion, but the cap on the grant is $100,000. I reached out to our engineers, and this would put us well over the $100,000. We can go out for bid if we like. And, well, if we get the grant, we can then go out for bid and bid it for bluestone, and if we want to pay it for it, we could so choose to do that. So we had a motion, had a second. Any further discussion on this?
Who seconded?
Me.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the village accessibility sidewalk? Meg? Meg, come on up so everybody can hear you. That's the law. We all know you, but thank you.
This is a sidewalk, I'm guessing, that's going just around this building?
Correct.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because as we put in sidewalks and as a model in general, I would love all of our sidewalks to be underlaid with structural soil.
Correct,
So that
yes.
if any trees are put in the median, or, they have an easier time with it and we don't fuck the sidewalk.
And that was so mentioned. I didn't include it in here, but absolutely we will have that under all of our sidewalks. Yes. Good question. All right. Any other questions on this grant? If you want the demolition, the base concrete is a 4-inch sidewalk reinforcement concrete sidewalk. It's 12-inch thick bar reinforced concrete sidewalk for the apron in front of the firehouse, the ADA accessible ramp to Village Hall and entrance with railings, the ADA accessible ramp to the fire department with railings and detachable warning plates. So and landscaping with the soil and the seed areas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next one on my list is police. Sergeant Dunn.
Good evening, everyone. So our proposal for the grant is going to be approximately $48,400. And of that, funding is basically all for equipment. And the equipment's going to be basically computers for the police cars, modems for the police cars, and we've done like 5G. We're required now to move our modems up to at least 4G. That's what we're trying to do. Also some wearable safety lights for officers. And new holsters for all the officers. And that's what comes to $48,400. So that's what we're going to apply for.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to also submit the police grant to the 2022 MIG grant proposals. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Any questions for
Are
the
we
chief?
proposing the contribution?
Oh, good point. Yes. Thank you, Brant.
10% again?
Yes, I would like to propose that we take 10% out of our capital fund for the police to put towards this application. So I'm amending my proposal. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Rick.
10% of the grant proposal.
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have a better chance of winning if we offer money, or is that required?
It's not required.
Okay.
And it depends on how much money is available at the county to distribute, so.
Got it, okay.
I don't think it doesn't hinder us, let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, I get that, yeah.
Any other questions? All right, so all in favor say aye.
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 Hey,
We need the paperwork.
all right, I'll send that over to you.
I have it.
Thank you,
got it,
Pete.
right?
I got it.
All right, well, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Kyle, I have yours somewhere, but I believe you have it as well. Could you come up and talk about what you would like to do for the firehouse?
So for the Rhinebeck Fire Department, for their submittal for the grant is we're looking for 5 new AEDs, which will be in compliance with our Light Pack 15. Just to give you a brief thing, we have a Light Pack 15, which is a cardiac monitor. We can do a 4-lead or a 12-lead, which can be transmitted to the hospitals for cardiac review to send us to a destination that is more appropriate for transport. What this means is that NDP or ALS supplier has the same Light Pack 15, so our AEDs will be able to work in conjunction with the Light Pack 15. We feel that due to the 1,100 calls we dispatch to a year, that upgrading our AEDs to be compliant with the Light Packs for ALS service will be a plus, which will come to a total of $9,645.20. What we're also looking to upgrade is a commercial grade washer and dryer, which means that we can wash 5 sets of turnout gear at one time, which will keep us within the compliance of our cancer mandates that we have to, with the cancer law that we file for each year. Our washer and dryer now only can wash 1 gear at a time, so I can tell you after 45 members that we have active after a fire, brush fire, or training exercise, it takes a while to get that done. So we're looking to upgrade that to keep in compliance, which is $14,720.99. The next thing that falls under the grant process is we're looking to upgrade our ATV, or UTV. Our UTV was back in 2005 donated to us by the Dutchess County Fairgrounds. That UTV is utilized for shows at the Dutchess County Fair, which consists of the Dutchess County Fair itself. The reason why we have that is easy access and maneuvering to start a first responder situation for fire suppression. It carries 60 gallons of water. We're able to maneuver that through the parking lots, the crowds, and so forth. It makes it accessible to be able to start initial attack. We're also using that for events such as Porch Fest. It's also a capability of transporting patients. We also use it for Santa Claus, which again is also used for what we established with the mass gathering to be able to transport patients if need be. It's also capable of when we respond to brush fires, mutual aid, either or in district or out of district. It has a fire compression line that we can use it to go all terrain to assist with brush fires in not only our district, but other districts. That comes to a total of $36,660.86, which the total submission for the grant would be $61,027.05.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the fire department application for the 2022 MIG grant with an additional 10% added from the fire capital fund. Of the grant process. Thank you, Lydia. Any discussion or questions for the chief?
$14,000 for a washing machine? God.
It's commercial. It's commercial good.
I know, it's just amazing.
Do we have to make any space adjustments for that?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. By the way, these grants are all due May 4th, so that's the reason we're pushing them forward now to get them into the process. So thank you for coming for that. Next, last month we talked about our bonding for a PD and fire communications tower out off of Berger Road. And we took a vote and approved it. There was only 3, we had a quorum, but the bond resolution requires 4. So I'm bringing it back to the table again for approval for the bond resolution to support the PD and fire communication tower. And our lawyer is still working on the seeker, but as what we understand is I'd like to make a resolution to establish the village board as the lead agency and pending no objection or findings by the engineer and/or attorney. And also to declare the fire and police communications tower replacement project type 2 action. So this action will not have an environmentally significant impact. So I'm going to made the motion to approve the bond for PD and fire communications tower. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lydia. Discussion, questions?
We're doing what we did before.
Yes. But in addition, we are now taking the extra step to establishing us as a lead agency, which is important, and declaring the seeker pending no removals of type 2 action.
Right.
Lead
That's
agency
important.
because the town is also going to be using it.
Well, we'll have to go through them for a permit for,
Okay.
however municipalities work with municipalities to do it since it's in the town. And that discussion's on, soon to get underway. Okay. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, so carried. All right. Next, wastewater pickup truck purchase, Brant.
So we had budgeted for the Ford Ranger last year, so it's in this fiscal year's budget, and we probably should buy this before the end of this fiscal year because it'll get complicated. So we have a bid from Romeo Ford for a 2022 Ford Ranger XL 4x4 Super Crew 5-foot box, 126.8, I guess, cubic inches. Selling price is $36,119. Bed liners $795, which we feel is important. Yeah. So the balance is $37,111.50. You saw this, Karen? Or?
I just saw that part of it, yeah, not the detail of it.
Do you want this?
Is that under state contract or is it?
Yeah, it's a state bid thing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's good. Wastewater's okay with the Ford Ranger?
Yeah.
Great.
Now, Karen and I did mention that maybe they could put the utility kit on the back of the older truck that they have now.
Okay.
So they'll probably pursue that. But they need the other truck first because they can't take it in. So I'd like to make a motion to get that approved.
So I'd like to also go along with your motion, Brant, for a resolution that this be a lease purchase agreement, and we combine this vehicle along with the police vehicle and go out for one lease purchase application. They would give us separate terms for each one, so that would be divided up between the general fund and the wastewater fund.
Okay.
Are you?
Separate those
All right.
Are you combining those motions, or are they separated?
I'm combining it so that we approve it as go out to purchase under a lease purchase agreement combined with the police vehicle.
Thank you.
Okay? Perfect. All right, so do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lydia. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're getting to the easy part. Okay. Workers' comp renewal policy. Martina, do you have that, or do?
I put it in your folder.
I'm going to pass this down to Martina. She's been working on it.
And I'm passing it to Karen. Good. Thank you. Oh, you can open it up for me? Yes, please.
Okay, so the workers' comp insurance is usually renewed every year. However, they gave us a proposal that they would not increase it if we committed to a 2-year term, and they would also continue to bill it quarterly as they usually do.
No chance of it going down.
If you remember our budget discussion, one of the things we had to increase was workers' comp.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Right. Okay. All right. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the workers' comp policy renewal.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so passed. Okay. Comprehensive Plan Committee member appointment.
Oh, yes. Unfortunately, one of our newest members, Heather Casano, has had to resign due to some family health issues. And so in her place, I would like the board to appoint Rachel Cavell, she's been very excited to participate on this since December, January, but teaches a class and so hasn't had the time until now. So it all worked out. Rachel Cavell is a member of the ZBA. She's been living here for forever. She lives on Livingston Street. She's a lawyer. She's a professor at Bard. She's wonderful. She's thoughtful. She's very smart. And I think we should appoint her. So I'm going to make a motion to appoint Rachel Cavell to the Comprehensive Plan Committee.
Second. Discussion.
She's fantastic.
Great.
Very excited.
I'm super excited that she has the availability and the desire.
I agree. I highly recommend Rachel.
She spearheaded and probably wrote the historic.
Chapter 64.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. We had an all conversation about it today.
All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, approve surplus items for auction. We did this last month, but we're going to be adding some additional items. Village Clerk.
The items to add would be the 95 Emergency 1 Rescue Pumper Truck from the Fire Department, a Tenco plow, a Buthling roller, salt dog sander, and a Snapper heavy-duty snowblower from the Highway Department.
Nice. And just for clarification, these are all going to absolute auctions, okay, in addition to the items we mentioned last time. If anybody has any questions on the fire truck and why we're sending that to auction, the chief is here. Let him have it. No. I want to summarize. That truck has served us well for 28 years.
28 years.
28 years, and there's nothing left good on it. Let's be honest. All right? And the chief has convinced me, and I agree, that it would just be hazardous to make it available to somebody else who wanted to even use it for a farm vehicle to spray their crops, right? It is the frame is that rusted out in it. So we want to pass that on to absolute auction. So if anybody can say, why are we not getting more money for a fire truck? That's why. We're going to take what we can get out of it. Did I summarize that correctly, Chief?
Perfect.
All right, thank you. In other words, it's a piece of crap. All right, so I make a motion to approve the additional items to go to absolute auction for surplus. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vanessa. All in favor? Any discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried. All right, it's got taken off. We need to now go to the 30-day waiver for liquor license, which I need to file in my stuff here. So pardon me a second while I look for that. Okay, we have to approve liquor license approvals, and the process for approving is we go through our police department. They do the background check and search, and we base it on their recommendation. So the police has vetted this out and has come back with an affirmative action item for the proposed waiver for Fortune Future LLC, doing business as Cellar 47 at 47 East Market Street, Suite 2 in Rhinebeck, New York, right? So I'd like to make a motion to approve the liquor license for Fortune Future LLC.
We waived the 30-day requirement, right? And then the SLA's got to make the determination.
Yes.
I added the determination from the police department and building planning and zoning to the bottom of that, behind it.
I'm okay with approving this request.
Yeah, zoning is not.
Overnight delivery, on the bottom of this page?
There should be the determination from building planning and zoning as well.
Yeah.
All right, so please be advised, the office has reviewed this request by the village clerk to have the code enforcement officer comment on the matter of the request from Fortune Future LLC asking that the village of Rhinebeck to waive the not less than 30-day requirement to submit the application for an on-premise liquor license, and it's determined that this request be denied because Fortune Future LLC, doing business as Cellar 47, has not submitted the application to the planning board. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
For a special permit at the location of Suite 2.
Yeah. They're putting the cart before the horse, basically.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding that. So I'm going to amend my motion to say that we deny the application request for Fortune Future LLC until appropriate approvals are received from the planning board.
Yeah. Second.
Okay.
Can we just say we approve pending approval
Yeah.
from the planning board?
We deny without prejudice, but they just need to come to the planning board and do things in the appropriate order.
Yeah, we could conditionally approve it, or we
Okay,
could just
like
pick it
three
up
different
again.
things.
Whatever you want.
In the
I
case
think
of
we can
liquor license,
deny it.
I'd like to wait till we get the
Yeah, that's probably
approval.
good.
Yeah, I'd like.
You know, this is kind of a serious thing.
That's what they wanted, planning board wants to do.
Yeah. Okay. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we're going to put that on hold.
Motion was to
All right. This is what happens when our agendas get so big. Sensory safe space application. This was 2 months ago or a month ago. The Village of Rhinebeck Autism Supportive Committee has brought forward a suggestion to amend our event application to include a sensory safe space. And I had some great input from the board in terms of questions, and this has been amended. I will read it to you in its entirety. It's not very long, and this is an amendment to our current event application. It's a sensory space, say this 3 times in a row. A sensory safe space affords individuals an opportunity to step away from overwhelming sensory experiences. Whenever possible, the sensory safe space should be easily accessible and provide a view of the event to be in the proximity of the event in the Village of Rhinebeck. The space will be staffed by trained personnel provided by the Autism Support Committee, and if requested, the Autism Support Committee will assist the event organizer with locating a sensory safe space and provide the signage. Advertisement of the space will be the responsibility of the event organizer. So in summary, a sensory safe space will be required only for village events where one or more of the following conditions are anticipated. Large numbers of people, crowd of over 75, walking conditions on the village sidewalks are encumbered by crowds or other people or other obstructions, potential for loud noise, for example, fire trucks, sirens, potential for flashing lights, for example, emergency vehicle lights. And a sensory safe space can be a room, an office, a tent. If it's a tent, a permit will be required for that accommodation. I'd like to make a motion to accept the amendment to our event application to include a sensory safe space as defined. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Questions? Discussion?
I think this did a nice job of capturing all of our questions. And
Yeah, you guys had great questions. I really appreciate it. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Martina, plug it in, please.
Will do.
Vacation buyout request. Too many files, Martina. Okay, I think we have one, right? One vacation buyout request. I'm going to call this employee number 6. Employee number 6 is requesting a buyout of 40 hours of accumulated vacation time. This has been approved by our treasurer, CFO, Karen McLaughlin. I make a motion to approve the vacation leave buyout request for employee number 6.
Second.
Any discussion? It's pretty rudimentary. We do this. All in favor say aye. Aye. So approved. Okay. Appoint superintendent of public works. All right. So Trustee Lewitt, I'm going to turn it over to you to come back with your recommendation from the committee.
Okay. So back in January, the mayor asked me, Trustee Slavy, and Trustee Nuneker to form a search committee for the position of superintendent of public works here in the village. And this was based upon a board discussion that we wanted to have a full-time superintendent of public works for the village. So for the job description, we started with the Dutchess County civil service job description. Now, to say this is a non-competitive job, so we don't have to go through the civil service. And we also added factors specific to Rhinebeck, like the need for 24-hour on-call availability and quick emergency response times to it. The job was posted and advertised by Village Clerk Martina McClinton. I also posted the job on Indeed.com and gave it national status. We collected about 24 applications in total. They were pretty quickly winnowed to 9 candidates. Of that 9, we decided to interview 3. Interviews were conducted by 2 trustees over Microsoft Teams. And the interview was then also recorded so that the 3rd trustee could then watch and have an opinion about the candidate. We wanted to make sure to observe open meeting laws, so there are only 2 of us at a time. Of our 3 candidates, each had some really terrific strong points, and pretty much they were very, very good candidates. After deliberation and discussion, the committee recommends that Kyle Amy be appointed to the position. Kyle brings strong organizational skills to the job. His leadership of our fire department shows his ability to run a complicated organization and blend together many people to work towards a common goal. He has demonstrated the ability to assimilate new technical information and effectively respond to a changing regulatory environment. We expect that Kyle's skills will be of great benefit to Rhinebeck. And with that, I will pass this to the mayor, who is appointing the person who appoints.
Okay, so this is an appointed position which had we approved at a previous board meeting. So I'd like to make a motion to approve Kyle Amy as the Superintendent of Public Works with the appointment date, which is the start date for records, would be today, April 12th, but his first day of hire or on the job will be May 9th to allow opportunity for him to exit his other job. I would also like to make a motion that we approve. I'd like to continue the motion that we have an annual salary of $53,000 annually, and upon appointment, he will carry over 2 weeks of vacation time from his previous employer and will begin to accrue sick time based on his start date. As I mentioned, the start date will be May 9th, 2022, with a probationary period of 3 months ending on August 1st, 2022, at which time he will receive a 2% increase as successful completion of probation period and will be eligible for medical benefits at that time. And on January 1st, 2023, he will receive benefits as per the village UPSE contract, which we work for, which all of our staff participates in now. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Discussion.
So I was a dissenting member of the group of the 3 of us, and it's awkward because Kyle's here, but Kyle has tremendous management skills on the fire department. I thought the other candidate that we had in mind was a village employee already. In keeping with my part-time notion, my part-time principal of public works, this person I would like to explore that this person could hold 2 hats and be in charge of the department they have already, and then also spend the other 60% or however it comes out of that person's time on being the director of public works. This person's turned our wastewater department around, and he has more technical skills that are more unique to the needs of things like water, wastewater, and highway department. And it's a difference in the budget, tremendous difference in the budget. Although Kyle is extreme, I think he does a fantastic job on the highway, on the fire department. I think that the general management skills are not what we're looking at unless, again, I said this earlier tonight, 10 hours a week, not 40.
So would the committee like to comment?
I just want to raise for the second time tonight that you are now telling us that your own wastewater department manager is saying that he doesn't need to be full-time in that position. That's the only thing I have to say about that.
It's just it's the state regulation. It requires a certain number of hours a day, and he doesn't want his assistant come in for 3 hours a day.
I hear that.
So.
I hear that.
So I will say at the committee level, we had a great deal of discussion about this job. The board had, prior to our search, had determined that we did want to have a full-time person in the job. And we did have 3 really terrific candidates, including one from within the village. It did come down to, I'm going to read a little bit of the job description, which was important to myself and Trustee Salebi. And first of all, the job description is oversees all programs and activities for the various departments within the Department of Public Works. And I'll put this one a little higher. Addresses all taxpayer complaints and concerns. Determines the priorities of all public works projects, responsible for purchase and maintenance, and also, and this is the very important part, develops the long-range plans for the department and for the village, gets all the necessary state permits, oversees all these processes, prepares the budget, takes care of an annual capital and asset program, and overall, I will just say, for instance, we had this morning, the mayor and I had a chance to walk some sections of Route 9 with folks from Dutchess County Transportation. And so we have some ideas that are bubbling as the work may be done down there. And the question was, who's going to be the point person? Who's going to take care of it? And the answer is, that's really a job for a DPW person. It's somebody who's going to be the interface with Dutchess County and with the state, because there's multiple projects going on at the same time. And being able to coordinate those various agencies and get our needs addressed as they're also doing their work. So this is really doing this planning, coordination, and future thinking for the projects that we are currently undertaking and will be undertaking is extremely important part of the job. And the management part of the job, which I think Kyle truly excels at, because we've seen how well he has put together this fire department, which is a growing fire department, which is a fantastic thing. Seeing Kyle's ability to organize the department, organize the people to work together, really felt that he would be the right person for this job.
So I'd like to thank the committee for their objectives, all right? I mean, this is important, and I appreciate that you've taken good time and have thought through this. It's taken a while. This didn't happen overnight in terms of making the second process. But I do agree with the committee that what we need here in the village is this long-term person to oversee and look over the extensive amount of work that the village is undertaking and have those eyes and ears in behalf of the village. And I can't think of anybody that would be more dedicated to the village than a lifelong resident such as Kyle Amy that could really work diligently on behalf. He's passionate, he's dedicated, he's committed, and the management skills, the leadership skills that he brings for this job, I think will advance us significantly going forward, and you, the public, will see the results, right? This is for all of us to be able to do. So I support the nomination. We have a motion.
Well, you're going to make a motion.
Yes. So we made a motion. I think you seconded it already. All right. Is there any other discussion?
I've made these arguments months before, so I'm not going to bring out any more tired, the same stuff. But, I mean, Rick just read the job description of the Public Works Superintendent. There's so much crossover between what the water and wastewater leads are already entitled to do, or required to do, so. That's my last point.
Okay. All right. I'm going to do a public roll call. Lydia?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Brant?
Nay.
Vanessa?
Aye.
Mayor? Aye. It's passed unanimously. Congratulations, Kyle.
Not
Nope.
unanimously.
Passed, not unanimously, passed, I'm sorry. I correct that. Passed, 4-1. Congratulations, Kyle, on your appointment. We're looking forward to working with you and helping to advance the village of Rhinebeck.
Thank you.
Okay. Special work requests, special permits. I'm going to turn it over. Martina, do you have these or do I have them all?
You have them.
I have them.
Kyle, get in touch with me.
Okay.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete. Okay, the first one is Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. This is something that happens every year. It's a motorcycle ride that they meet out on the fairgrounds. Our police give them access to exit and get out onto the street. So it's a low-speed 40-mile motorcycle ride for classic vintage custom motorcycles, not sports or large Harley-type cruisers. Riders wear helmets, smart clothing to raise awareness for men's health initiatives and raise funds for member foundations. So this is called this Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. The date is on 5/22/22. The event time is 1:30 to 2:30. I'd like to make a motion to approve, as we have in the past, the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I think that's why you're here. Porch Fest. Okay. I hear Porch Fest is coming back. Yes. So Sally is here, Sally Mazzarella. Thank you for your patience and time as we got to this.
That's fine. It's absolutely great to be at a live meeting. If I have to sit through 3 Zoom meetings in a day, I'm ready to throw up. So, but my daughter's going to yell at me for saying that. But it's been very impressive to see all that you have on the agenda. There's so much going on in the village. So good luck and congratulations with all of that. So we're kind of excited that Porch Fest is coming back to Rhinebeck. My daughter Liz asked that I be here on her behalf. She's away for the Easter holiday with her family. But she's been working with the committee, and September 24th is the day that has been assigned for this event to return. There's so much excitement in the village when we talk to people about music coming back for a day, and it's a great way to celebrate and celebrate the spirit of Rhinebeck, and especially with all that we've been through, to have music in our hearts and be able to walk the streets of the village of Rhinebeck and visit with our friends and enjoy a happy day. So pretty much the format will be the same. I know that when we thought about modifying it and bringing it to the town park, that was something we felt would work during COVID. But hopefully all that's behind us and we can use the village streets again. I know that the committee has talked about Chestnut Street and Livingston. They're still in the early stages, so whether or not other streets will be used, we'll certainly keep you informed about that. Liz knows that she visits with the police and EMT and fire departments to make sure that everything that they feel is important for safety, is something that's observed by the committee. We will be using the fairgrounds for parking again, and the grand finale will also be at the fairgrounds as we did a couple of years ago. So we're kind of excited, and we hope that village officials here will bless this event and give us the opportunity to celebrate with the community.
Liz didn't tell me she was sending in the big guns. But thank you for coming, Sally. It's really nice to see you again.
Good to see all of you.
So as you mentioned, I've had the conversation with Liz about we need to go through our emergency response committee, right? And get their approval and sign off for doing that. So with that, I'd like to make the motion that we prove this pending that review by our emergency response committee, which consists of Sergeant Dunn, Fire Chief Kyle Amy, and Kathy Tegmeyer, right, who is our emergency response coordinator, that they meet with Liz. Liz will set that up when they come back and on their approval. So I'd like to make a motion pending that approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussions for Sally, questions for Sally?
I mean, some of the most moving moments I've had since we've kind of come out of this pandemic have been live music with friends and community. And I think this is going to be so wonderful. And I think it's, thank you to Liz. Please tell her thank you for sticking with it. And I think it's going to be wonderful.
That's right.
Yeah, really excited.
And I believe the funds are still going to go towards Thompson Mazzarella Park to help improve the facilities there, correct?
Yes. The Porch Fest Committee has pledged $100,000 towards the multi-use fields. And to date, I think there may be $35,000 towards that. So I guess there's a couple more Porch Fest to raise those funds.
Well, I'm happy that the Village of Rhinebeck can help contribute to that and offer our services. So, again, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Memorial Day Parade. How about another live event? Right, so coming back, as May approaches, the American Legion Montgomery Post 429 is in the process of organizing the annual Memorial Day ceremonies and parade scheduled for May 30th, 2022, starting at 10:30 a.m. With request permission to conduct a parade and ceremonies, we'll also request that Mulberry Street north of Platte Avenue be closed to all non-participating traffic during lineup. The parade lineup on Mulberry Street north of Platte will utilize the fields at Dutchess County Fairgrounds to the corner of Platte Avenue and Mulberry, as well as the large field next to the former Village Police Headquarters. The parade will step off promptly at 10:30 a.m., proceed south on Mulberry Street to East Market Street, then west on East Market Street to Route 9, then south on Route 9 to the Rhinebeck Cemetery, where ceremonies will take place at the conclusion of the parade. They would like to request that the Village Police Department be on duty for the lineup, the parade, and ceremonies, and would like the Village Police Guard to lead the parade if possible. I've reviewed this with our police department, and they have given a thumbs up as well. So having done that, I would like to make a motion that we approve this, still pending the approved DOT permit that we are required to have. And from what I understand, they are working on that. So.
Second.
Grant, thank you. Any discussion?
Does this have to go through the same emergency response committee review?
In this case, they're only requiring police services, and so no to board approval. And yeah, where the others were going to be putting up barriers and doing everything else. Once we get the DOT permit, we do the police escort.
Right.
So short answer, no. Thank you.
Don't do that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let's have a great Memorial Day. Thank you, again. Okay, next is the de-escalation training. This is verbal de-escalation and conflict resolution. This is put on by Brian Conley, correct? Correct. So the name of the applicant, though, is Jessica Hyman of 1825 North Blumen Drive in Appleton, Wisconsin. It's a verbal de-escalation and conflict resolution training. Originally, when this was proposed, it was proposed to include our police and fire departments. And so it's a request to use Village Hall. To net this out, the bottom line is both our police and fire get de-escalation training already. This is not something that they need to participate in, so he has then opened it up to the public. Unfortunately, we do not offer the Village Hall to non-for-profit agencies. And this is not for-profit agencies, excuse me, you're right, for-profit agencies, and this is one of those. So that's clearly on the application. It says that the Village Hall is a public building supported by the village taxpayers, and only non-for-profit local organizations are allowed to use the hall, and no alcoholic beverages can be sold. So with that, I think it's a great idea, but I'm going to make the motion that we deny this application for this organization. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lydia. Questions? Discussion?
They could try renting the Open Gate building. The Methodist Church. The Methodist Church, their little community building. They are trying to bring in other programming.
The owners of Father Brogan have also opened themselves up to sort of using the gym for whatever people want to use it for. So that's an option as well.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, application denied. Next, high school graduation banners. No, that's the other one. Let's get to this one. We're out of order here a little bit. Okay, this is from the Rhinebeck Central School District. It is time again to prepare to celebrate our graduating seniors of the class of 2022. As you may recall, the Rhinebeck Central School District has been placing 4 pole banners in our village to recognize our graduates for many years now. And we are asking the village board approval for this year to continue that tradition. We have received approval from Mr. Luke Mengels, Supervisor of Real Property Services with Central Hudson. And again this year, Rhinebeck Central School District will place each banner on the approved pole as well as remove them. I'd like to make a motion, as we have in the past, to celebrate our graduating seniors for 2022, to allow them to place the flags, pole banners on our village streets.
Second.
Questions, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Good luck, class of 2022.
Yes. Okay, last one, Rhinebeck CSD and ENTA. This is Rhinebeck Central School, and the ENTA is the Education Network for Teachers and Artists. I'm going to summarize this. Basically, they're going to be doing walking tours within the village of Rhinebeck. As part of their walking tours, they want to stop in the village hall and basically conduct a training session. There'll be multiple groups going through at a certain time to be able to use the hall to facilitate history walking tours within the village of Rhinebeck. And this is the 7th grade kids, by the way, and explain to them about Rhinebeck's rich history, focusing on the colonial era and Revolutionary War period. The program has been ongoing since 2013, and all coordination will be done by experienced teaching artists and staff, as well as Buckley Middle School teachers. I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Thank you, Vanessa. Question, discussion?
I asked them today if members of the Comprehensive Plan Committee could join them for the walking tour, the historic walking tour of the village.
We need some chaperones.
Well, I mean, like, just fascinating. And we're trying to figure out ways to have more of Rhinebeck's non-European history be part of the general narrative of the village as part of the comprehensive plan work. So, I don't know. I was very excited to see this event application because, you know, it showed me that it's...
But that's not going to be a condition of approval.
No, it is not.
All right. All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, so carried. All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for March 8th, 2022 and April 5th, 2022.
Just March 8th, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I resent an agenda to you, but just...
Okay, I'm reading off the screen, sorry.
Oh, okay. Just March 8th.
Just March 8th this time. I know I read them. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to approve March 8th, 2022 minutes.
Second.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any discussion? Changes, requests? Yeah. All in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, so carried.
Thanks.
Treasurer's report.
Okay, treasurer's report is for the period ending March 31st. The tax collector account ended the month with $510,172.14. The general fund ended the month with $255,519.65. The water ended the month with $263,698.99. And the sewer fund ended the month with $656,290.68. Vouchers presented for payment in the general fund total $109,890.63. In the water fund, $45,258.44. In the sewer fund, $165,001.54. In the escrow, we paid one bill for $1,728.75, and we paid interest only on a bond for the water main project of $31,545.16. I request a motion to authorize payment of those vouchers.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the vouchers as presented by the treasurer.
Second.
Just a quick, just to let you know that in the sewer fund, the reason that the bills are pretty high in that fund is that the $127,000 for the filter building is included in that.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Okay, an operating statement is provided for the revenue and expenditures through April 12th. Just a quick recap, we already did the budget, but department budget meetings were held on February 22nd, March 1st, March 14th, with a review of the total budget on March 29th. The tentative budget was filed with the clerk and published on the village website. As the budget was passed, calculations will be sent to Dutchess County to prepare the tax bills. Unpaid water and sewer, past due bills prior to March 31st will be re-levied on village taxes minus the current bills going out. Those will not be re-levied. So my next item, MuniLink. I just wanted to kind of explain that I have done research on water and sewer billing programs. Our meter reader is from 1995. Our meter reader is not supported, nor is the interface with the billing software. We upgraded the meter. We need to upgrade the billing software. I am just asking for the board to authorize entering into a contract with MuniLink for water and sewer billing. The initial data transfer and training fee is $13,000, of which $7,000 will be water and $6,000 will be sewer.
There's some other advantages that this program brings to us that I think are worth noting. Currently, we use a program called SCA. SCA is starting to require us to pay a lot of money towards upgrades and improvements to the program. That money is not advancing us, and that program is no longer really advancing us with technology improvements that MuniLink is offering. The support and services that MuniLink can offer us will improve our turnaround time. It'll improve our mailing and distribution, for those that have to be mailed and those who can be now. We can offer a better, wider, robust program for billing and electronic mailing of the receipts, which is going to be huge, which is huge for us. Today, if somebody wants them emailed, we have to pull them manually out, right?
Scan it in.
And scan them in and mail them. It's a process that is just encapsulating all of our resources that could be put to better use for this software. So I have participated in several of the meetings with Karen on MuniLink, and in full support of making the motion to spend additional funding to go towards MuniLink. Phase 1, water, wastewater. Phase 2, taxes.
On that note, they do not do not have the ability to integrate the file that's prepared by the county into their tax program.
Would that hinder us?
However, I feel like it's still good for water and sewer. I think we can stay with SCA for taxes.
All right, that's new news.
At this point. I just found out yesterday. Yes.
Okay.
Would you be able to do like building, planning, and zoning bills through it, or compost sales?
Yeah, they said they have like additional, like we can do municipal or miscellaneous bills, because we also do grease trap and we do backflow prevention. So we'll be able to. They do garbage, so I'm sure we can incorporate the compost or building and zoning fees with that.
Okay.
It's
really
really,
have a good program.
Yeah,
already.
Municity already does
Yeah,
that.
they have a pretty good program.
it's one more step to help automate and have better record keeping.
And I think one of the main things is, after that, it is $800 a month, but we have disaster recovery, audit, data backup, unlimited support, billing upgrades, data protection, and a notification system. So they're going to kind of help us with, like, if there was a water main break and we needed to notify just South Parsonage, or we needed to notify a couple blocks. So.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah, so I think there are some other things that are going to allow us to, like right now, Chrissy gets on the phone with everybody's, everyone's phone number, and So I think it's just, not to mention, it has the file that's integrated in with the meter reader, and that meter reader can stay down at the water plant with the guys. They don't have to come up. We can do work orders, service orders through the program. It allows them to have more control over their part of the process.
Great.
All right, so made a motion to have a second to accept Municity software.
Wait, what?
Munilink, excuse me.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Very good. Thank you for your work on that, Karen.
Thank you, yes, thank you. Lease purchase, you already went through that. Tax cap, we are under the 2% tax cap, and the tax cap will be filed with the budget. Since it was adopted, I'll do that tomorrow. Constitutional tax margin, the pre-budget has been filed with the New York State Comptroller's Office, so upon tomorrow I will file that as well. Transfer, I'm also requesting transferring the budgeted capital amounts from fire of 70,000, streets 7,500, police 10,000, the capital water, which I'll get to that in my budget amendment, of 75,000, and the capital sewer of 57,400.
What are we doing with those? We're transferring them?
We're just transferring it to their reserve fund, so their capital funds.
As part of the budget process.
From the operating.
Got it.
From operating to capital.
Yeah.
Oh, so is that where your 7,500 went?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No.
No. Oh, okay. All right.
But, I don't know, technically, I can just do this, but I always like, as transparency, the month before the end of the year, I like to put it out so that the board and you all know that that's being transferred this month. Water and wastewater billing and adjustments have been signed off by Trustee Nuniker and are presented for authorization.
I'd like to make a motion to get the changes approved as presented, adjustments as presented.
Second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good.
Okay, so quickly I'll run through the budget amendments. The $580,000 is to allocate the cost of the new fire truck that was financed, but to bring it in and finance that. The clerk, deputy clerk, treasurer salaries, I'm requesting an increase of $5,900 because of benefit buyouts and overtime that we did not account for at the beginning of the fiscal year. The leased police command car, so that lease starts in the 22-23 fiscal year. So there's $10,000 there, $1,900, and then the $7,000, which I discussed with Vanessa, that is not used for the brine. I'm requesting those three items be transferred to the, they total $21,000, that be transferred to the streets for the Center Street study general fund portion of it. We also have, in the police retirement, we have $11,250 remaining funds, and then there are a few police items that are over budget, so I'm requesting that to offset those. The building inspector, there's $2,300 I'm requesting that to be allocated to the planning board secretary line item. They're within the same group, but they require a budget amendment. In the water fund, so in the water fund, the bond for this was the first year for the bond for the principal for the water main project, totaling $115,000. The New York State EFC, as we didn't know when we passed this budget last year, had a balance in that account, and the only thing that they would be able to do with that balance was pay that principal payment. So they did that. So that is remaining in the budget. I'm requesting that of that, $40,000 go to the water portion of the Center Street study, and then $75,000 go to being transferred to the capital water, which is where I got that amount from. We have $53,500 remaining funds in water supplies, and I'm just asking to allocate that to some other line items that are low or over budget. In the sewer, again, the bond for the Astor Gardens expansion, that was paid off like May 31st of last year. So there's 90,000 for principal, 4,000 for interest, and that, reducing the transfer to capital by 32,000, I'm asking for that budget amendment to cover the wastewater filter bed that was in this run of vouchers to be paid. And then just $20,000 from sewer equipment to supply, 10 to supplies and 10 to sledge hauling.
I make a motion to accept the transfers as presented by the treasurer.
Second.
Second.
Thanks, Brant. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. So carried.
And that's all I have.
Fine. No, this is all good work. Thank you. All right. Department reports. I know a lot of us have things we would like to say or discuss, so I'm going to leave it up to individual committees, individual department heads if they want to read the report. But I'd like to make a motion for those reports that are online, that they be, shared on the cloud, and we're not going to spend the time this evening unless one of the trustees would like to go over their report independently. So.
I don't want to go over the report, but I just want to say that brush pickup has begun. The department's determined there will be no more plowable snow events. So brush pickup would be continuous from April 1st through May 15th. And then beginning in June, continuing through July, August, and September. On the north side of East and West Market Street, including Market Street, brush pickup will be the first and third Monday of the month. And south of East and West Market Street, brush pickup will be on the second and fourth Monday. And once again, that is June, July, August, and September. So right now there's continuous brush pickup until May 15th. And the reason why we stop at May 15th is then we have to get the village ready for the Memorial Day Parade. So we ask people can take a little hiatus from putting stuff on the street. That would be much appreciated to keep the village looking sharp for the parade. So that's all I want to add.
Would you like? Yes, absolutely. No, I'm open. I'm just not going to read into the full record, the police and the fire department report.
I wanted to remind everyone that April is Earth Month, and we're encouraging everyone to, especially on Fridays, try to go car free, especially in the village. Take the opportunity and hopefully the nice weather to walk and reduce your emissions, ride a bike. Whether you're walking or biking to school or to work or just around our lovely village. I also want to encourage everyone to go to rhinebeckcompost.org, where we now have a website, a video up on our website that was produced for us by Rhinebeck's own high school students who are in Club Interact, including Brant's daughter starring on the silver screen. And these high school students, Greta and Josie, did an amazing job. So please watch the video. I hope we can have them back in May at the next board meeting to give them a certificate of achievement, because it's really wonderful. And I also wanted to say thank you to the 40 people who submitted photography, nature photography, for our call for photos, for our natural resources inventory, and for our comprehensive plan process. We received some absolutely gorgeous photos, and we're working on a way for the public to maybe weigh in on their top picks. And we'll be thanking the top picks with some lovely nature photography books. And I also want to say a quick thank you to the police department and to the town highway department who supported us as we tried to do our amphibian migration event. The weather didn't really cooperate, but the police department and Bob Wyant were absolutely fantastic in helping out our volunteers. That's it.
Can I say something real quick? So there's no report here from the Comprehensive Planning Committee, and so I need to work on that. But I just wanted to share with you that the process has begun. The main committee approved 6 subcommittees in their last meeting. The information about those subcommittees is online at villageofrhinebeck.org/comp plan. And if you want to participate in any of those subcommittees, you are welcome. The subcommittees are open to anyone. It is not restricted to village residents. And the work is beginning, and we're very excited about it. I'm also about to submit a grant application for $10,000. We're doing some research into other grant opportunities, but if you are willing or able or delighted or know of anyone who can help with either grant processes, finding money, or to support this project, or humans who can help with administrating the process. There's a lot of herding cats with this many people who are so excited about making sure that our village has a wonderful comprehensive plan. And so if you're a professional cat herder, please reach out to me. We can use all the help we can get. So thank you very much.
Okay. The next is the tree commissioner presentation.
So actually I have two items from the tree commission. First, one piece of lovely news. We've been awarded our 11th annual Tree City Award from the National Arbor Day Foundation. So that's 11 years in a row that we've had this award. And that truly is due to the hard work of the tree commission. And the other, this is really the big doings down at the tree commission. The tree commission has long been concerned about the condition of the trees on our central corridors, both along Route 9 and here on East Market Street. So the commission went to the Frost Foundation, and the Frost Foundation agreed to give a grant of $30,000 to help the tree commission remove and replace damaged and dying trees on East Market Street. So I have, if I can get this thing to go.
Just double click it.
I think I have to uncheck it there.
You have to pick one of those choices.
Oh, okay, there we go.
I know. IBM's versus Macs, right?
Yeah, really, okay. So this is just to remind folks of the conditions that we have. This is one of the old Norway maples that's on the street. You can see that it's been pruned, so the power lines split it. Thank you. So the power lines split it. This tree is not healthy. If you walk down through the village now, you'll see that there are woodpecker holes in these trees. Also, these are issues that the limbs are leaning out either out of somebody's house or into the street. So these trees, which were planted 50 plus maybe years ago, even more, have really come to the end of their life, and are not really an appropriate tree to be planted in this corridor. One of the primary reasons being that they're too tall and they get into the power lines, and that's Central Hudson's handiwork that you can see. It's all over the village, but especially on the corridor on East Market Street. It's true. Just another quick, you can see what's been going on with the trees. So the tree commission set out to come up with a plan for the removal and the replacement of various trees. And I'm just going to say this was all work done by a group of really conscientious and really hardworking volunteers. I'm showing you, this is just for example, this is the plan. This is a section of East Market Street, actually here between Center and Mulberry. And you can see this is the plan for the removal of various trees, and then the planting of the appropriate trees. This actually is a document that's going to go to New York State DOT tomorrow. And just to give you a sense for what was all part of this, basically tree commission volunteers went door to door, knocking on doors, calling people, emailing them, following up to say, hey, we see that you have a problem tree in front of your house. We have an opportunity to have it removed. What kind of tree would you like to have as a replacement, as an appropriate tree? And so I just want you don't need to read this, but these are all the notes from all the properties that the volunteers contacting, making sure, talking to people, and getting all of this work done. So it's a tremendous undertaking, and this was all done over the course of the winter. So I'd like to thank the Frost Foundation very much for granting the money to do this. The work is going to be done in a couple sections. We expect later this month that we will have 16 trees removed. These are the old Nori maples removed from East Market Street here. And then on April 30th, which is the last Saturday in April, and it's the Tree Commission's regularly scheduled tree planting day, commissioners, volunteers will be planting 20 trees. And so we'd like, if anybody would like to come out and help to beautify the village, we can always use help to this. So we'll be planting 20 trees, and then there are some larger varieties of trees which can't be planted by volunteers. So the grant will be paying for having some professional plantings done in this area. It's going to be a changeover pretty quickly. I think some people may go, oh my God, these trees are gone. But the commission really looked at this and said, these trees are a hazard. It's much more efficient to do this in one go. We can get the trees, we can get this together, and so we're moving forward. But I really have to say all praises to the various commissioners who did all of this hard work, planning, contacting, getting all of this stuff together over the winter. So I want to let you guys know that that's upcoming.
Amazing. Do we have to approve anything?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Just want to let you know that that's coming on.
Oh, great. Wonderful news across the board, honestly.
Yeah, it's been a concern for the commission for a long time, these trees, and it really all came together. And again, wonderful hard work from volunteers, knocking on doors, calling people, making the plans. It's been a terrific effort on their part.
Amazing.
Very good. Come out and plant. It's a great way to spend the day.
How does one sign up to help plant? Do we send an email to the tree commission?
Yes, you can contact us at trees at villageofrhinebeckny.gov. That's the Tree Commission's email address. So if you're interested in coming out, it's really a fun event. We have folks of all ages. We generally break down into squads of about 5 folks. Usually there's an experienced leader and new volunteers who come in. And the trees are placed out, again, by volunteers ahead of time. Our highway department helps by digging the holes and distributing mulch that is from our own mulch pile so we can mulch these trees. And then we have a lot of fun planting trees. And I'll guarantee that it's going to be a beautiful day.
Meg or Connie, is there anything you guys would like to add?
There.
A couple things I just want to really...
Come on up so everybody can hear you, Meg.
First of all, I just want to thank again the Frost Foundation. We could not have done this without them. Certainly the removal part, we would never have gotten done. And without getting the removals done, there wouldn't be a place to put a lot of new trees. So thanks again to them. Thanks again to Kat Evans and Connie and Natalka and Joyce, all of them. Spent a lot of time reaching out to people when I was in Mexico. But they really did it. They did a great job, and we thank them for that. And I know that there's some people that are concerned about big trees coming down, but the trees, honestly, that are coming down are very dangerous at this point. And there isn't much up top. It's really the trunks that are left. And I'm hoping that everybody on the street will really appreciate not only the big shade trees where we're able to put them on the north side of the street, but also some of the beautiful flowering trees we're going to be adding to the south side of the street. So anyway, as far as people coming out to volunteer goes, we do think we're going to get a fairly large group from Interact this year. And so if you're interested, yes, you can call me. Please do it right away. We're trying to create our teams ahead of the day, so it's not quite as confusing with COVID and everything else. So, and we will be meeting at will be doing a little introduction there, but please, you can email me at makecrawford37@gmail if you're interested, and we've got our fingers crossed that the Frost Foundation will help us again to do Montgomery Street in the fall, so you can help them if you don't get a chance to help them. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Meg. Just to add to this, this is going to be done on the main corridor, so safety is going to be of high concern, that we protect those people who are working with us from cars and traffic that is going by. So we will be requiring safety vests. We're going to take use of our new emergency signboard to put out on the street to warn traffic that there's work going on, et cetera. So please come out, but we're going to exercise extreme caution and safety as we're doing that.
Say again the date they're taking down the trees?
Not determined, TBD,
Okay.
but prior to the planting.
Yeah, okay.
Hopefully. Okay, thank you. Before we adjourn, there's one other bit of business that I would joyfully like to announce. Everybody knows that last year we had a pocket park at CVS, right? It was wonderful. A lot of people worked hard to make that pocket park come to play and be used throughout the summer. It's unfortunate, though, we will not be able to continue to have the pocket park at the CVS lot again. And just to put all the cards on the table, the owners of the lot have a contract with CVS, and it's not CVS that is an objection to it. It's the owners of the property and their agreement with CVS. CVS has been wonderful in cooperating to help us get that park up and running. I'd like to extend a lot of thanks. I know Vanessa was involved with Rhinebeck Response on making that, and Enjoy Rhinebeck and the Rhinebeck Chamber and some village board members all contributed a lot to make that happen, but it can't continue. So with that, there's several tables and umbrellas and trash containers that I would like to see put to good use. So I ran into and offered a suggestion to Enjoy Rhinebeck and Claudia and said, I think we could make use of those tables for the village and not have them be used. We are trying to increase the use of our parks at both Crystal Lake and at Rockefeller, and I made the offer to either buy or whatever those tables from the organizations since they couldn't be used. They reached out to their membership and came back in big letters, please accept our donation of all the tables that were used, the umbrellas and the trash containers for the village of Rhinebeck to be used in our parks. So a huge thank you to Rhinebeck Responds and Enjoy Rhinebeck for helping us to increase our park. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 8:47.
Second.
Oh. All in favor say aye. Aye. Enjoy your week.